It's my understanding that you have reached a verdict, is that correct?
Yes.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Mark D. Jensen, guilty of intentional homicide of the first degree as charged in the information.
Mark Daniel Jensen was found guilty of his wife's murder in February of 2008 and sentenced to life in prison.
If this case ever comes back, I'll try the damn thing again because Mark Jensen belongs in prison.
And the case did come back. After years of legal battles in the Wisconsin Supreme Court, Jensen was granted a new trial, only this time it would exclude a letter written by his wife. And prosecutor Robert Jan Boyce kept his word, returning to prosecute Jensen a second time for the killing of his wife.
The idea of a hung jury just stuck sideways in my throat because then there's no closure for anyone. And after almost 10 years, there had to be some closure.
Jensen was convicted on evidence that included a letter from his wife, Julie, who wrote before her death, "If anything happens to me, Mark would be the first suspect." Now, a new jury will hear the evidence against Jensen, but his wife's letter cannot be introduced this time around.
She had the envelope in her hands, and she said if anything happened, I should give this to the police.
The reason why the letter is the source of numerous appeals is because Mark Jensen's attorneys are not able to cross-examine Julie Jensen, who wrote the letter, because she's dead.
The prosecution claims Jensen killed his wife with antifreeze in order to be with his mistress. Prosecutors argued his internet search history provided evidence that he was looking for ways to make Julie's death look like a suicide.
Do you remember who started complaining about whose wife first?
You know, I think it really was Mark. Mark told me if you wanted to get rid of your wife, that you could go to websites that would tell you how to poison your wife, how it would not be detectable.
Jensen's attorneys argue Julie was depressed and killed herself and framed her husband out of spite.
What was your understanding as to why Mrs. Jensen was coming in to see you?
She was very upset, and it seemed like she was there because she wanted some help. She was upset enough that I gave her medicine and strongly encouraged her to seek counseling as well as to follow up with me.
A case that began 25 years ago will have one final day in court, with 125 witnesses expected to take the stand to determine whether Mark Jensen murdered his wife back in 1998.